I'm Cole, 28 years old, and until about half a year ago, my understanding of family was completely different. I spent my childhood in a suburban area right outside San Diego, in a house with white siding and a porch swing that groaned if you pushed it too far. From an outsider's perspective, we appeared to be a perfectly content, typical family, 2 parents, 2 boys, and our golden retriever, Dusty. Yet, beyond the tidy facade and cheerful holiday greetings, something always felt slightly amiss. Was adopted at the age of 2. My adoptive parents, Dennis and Linda, had struggled for years to have children. 3 years later, their miracle baby, my younger brother Ryan, arrived. The moment he was born, the atmosphere in our home noticeably changed. Initially, it was minor. More pictures of Ryan on the refrigerator, his artwork dominating the walls. But soon, it became undeniable. Despite being older, he received the larger bedroom, got the brand new clothes, the superior bicycle, and more extravagant birthday celebrations. I was constantly reminded of how special I was for being adopted. But their behavior contradicted those words. I tried to ignore it, excelled in school, avoided trouble, and earned a scholarship to a reputable college. My parents didn't offer any financial support, claiming they couldn't afford it. This was despite their recent kitchen renovation and paying for Ryan's personal pitching coach. Still, I didn't entirely resent them. I rationalized it, thinking perhaps that's just how life unfolds sometimes, and maybe it wasn't meant to be personal. Ryan, however, made it intensely personal. He constantly reminded me that I was the outsider, the extra child. During family meals, he'd quip things like, "Cole was just the prototype," and my parents would laugh along instead of intervening. When he was 16, he once stared directly at me and declared, "You're fortunate they even kept you." I recall that night. With perfect clarity, I went to my room and lay awake, gazing at the ceiling until dawn, questioning if I was merely a temporary visitor in my own house. A decade passed. After college, I relocated to Seattle, secured a tech job, climbed the ranks, and eventually launched my own consulting business. It wasn't glamorous initially, but I invested every ounce of effort into it. While Ryan was busy sharing shirtless photos on Instagram and dropping out of community college, I was constructing a future. I never anticipated assistance from my family, and none was ever extended. Our contact was purely out-of-duty holiday. Phone calls, sporadic texts, but the emotional gap between us felt like a mutual, unspoken understanding. Last year, my parents' health began to deteriorate. My father suffered a minor stroke, and my mother received an early-onset dementia diagnosis. I flew back home repeatedly, offering what help I could, scheduling appointments and confirming their insurance coverage. Ryan, predictably, did nothing practical. But he was always present for the photo opportunities, miling by their bedside. With captions like, "Cherish every moment," I attempted to disregard it, convincing myself it wasn't about seeking recognition. Then came the reading of the will. It was a bright March day when I received an email from the estate attorney requesting my presence. I immediately booked the next flight. We convened in the office of Mr. Wilcox, a weary-looking lawyer with a receding hairline and coffee stains on his shirt collar. Ryan arrived late, sporting sunglasses indoors and smelling strongly of some trendy cologne. My parents were absent. They had passed away 3 weeks apart. My mother first, then my father soon after. The reality of their deaths hadn't fully registered yet. Mr. Wilcox opened the file, cleared his throat, and commenced reading. "To our son Ryan," he stated, "we bequeath the house, the vehicles, and the remainder of our savings, amounting to $740,000. I remained motionless, anticipating my turn. "To Cole," Mr. Wilcox proceeded, "we extend our best wishes." That was all. No memento, no personal note, not even a photo album. Ryan smirked as if he'd hit the jackpot. "I guess they finally acknowledged who the true son is," he declared, utterly, shamelessly. "Admit it, man. You were never truly family." I said nothing. My chest constricted, but I maintained a composed expression. I rose, thanked Mr. Wilcox for his time, and exited without another word. Outside, I settled into my rental car and simply gazed forward. I'm unsure how long I sat there. My hands trembled, not from anger, but from a profound, chilling sensation. Like a final lock engaging on a door I'd spent my entire life trying to unlock. I didn't weep. I didn't shout. I simply drove to the airport and flew back home. 3 days later, I received a call from a woman named Diane. She identified herself as being from Worthington and Blay, a Manhattan law firm, and stated she had urgent news concerning an estate. I initially presumed it was an error, but she requested me by my full name, including a middle name only present on my birth certificate, one I had never used. That evening, I sat on my couch holding my breath as Diane revealed that my biological parents, George and Ava Lennox, had died in a private plane crash 2 weeks prior. I had no knowledge of them. I'd never met them, yet it seemed they had been discreetly monitoring me over the years. They were affluent, private entrepreneurs who had established and sold numerous ventures in the pharmaceutical and clean technology sectors. They had no other children, no surviving relatives. They bequeathed their entire estate to me. This included multiple properties, one in Napa Valley, another in the Hamptons, and a brownstone in New York City. There was also a trust fund, stocks, patents, and royalties, with a total worth exceeding $42 million. I remained seated, phone in hand, staring at my dark television screen as the figures resonated in my mind. I expected to feel shock, disbelief, or even happiness. Instead, a profound weight settled over me, a mix of vindication and deep sorrow. So much grief for the parents I never knew, for the ones I believed I had, and for the young boy who once wished they would love him as they loved their biological child. The following week, I flew to New York. The estate manager guided me through everything: the brownstone, the financial records, and even a locked box containing handwritten letters. They had written to me annually on my birthday, but never mailed them. I spent 3 days reading them, weeping softly in a room surrounded by the memories of people I never had the chance to meet. They had desired me. They'd loved me from a distance, silently yet intensely, and now they too were gone. I kept it all confidential. I didn't inform Ryan, nor anyone from my previous life. I moved into the brownstone, established a foundation in their honor, and dedicated my time to envisioning a future I never thought possible. That was until Ryan appeared at my doorstep. He seemed desperate, mumbling about poor investments and needing a place to crash. I unlatched the gate, stepping out just enough for him to spot me, and uttered the first words I'd spoken to him in over a year. He blinked in disbelief upon seeing me. "Cole," he questioned, as if unsure of my reality. I remained silent initially, simply observing him. He had lost weight, but not in a healthy manner, the kind that results from stress and numerous sleepless nights. His once impeccable haircut had become disheveled, and his designer clothes, though expensive, were creased and slightly frayed at the cuffs. He resembled a man attempting to wear the remnants of a life that no longer suited him. "Man," he said, forcing a laugh, "I had no idea you lived here. I saw this place online while searching for rentals and thought, there's no way this is Cole's, but then the gate opened. ... Single quotes he trailed off. Surveying the immaculate front garden, the black wrought iron fence, and the gleaming brass plaque bearing the Lennox name. I remained silent, allowing him to stumble over his words. I wasn't going to make this easy. I didn't come to argue, he finally stated. Things haven't been going well lately. I made some investments that didn't work out. I lost a lot on a crypto deal in Mom and Dad's house. I had to sell it. The market crashed, and I'm drowning in debt. I thought maybe. I crossed my arms. Talk about what, precisely? He hesitated. Look, I know things got strange after the will. I was just taken by surprise, man. I didn't mean all that stuff I said. You didn't mean it? I echoed, my voice calm, my body still. You've been saying things like that since we were kids, Brian. The only difference now is you're broke, and you assume I've forgotten. He shifted uncomfortably. That's not fair. What's not fair, I interjected, is growing up in a home where your parents allowed you to believe you were superior because of genetics. What's not fair is bestowing everything upon a son who only took and leaving nothing for the one who actually showed up when it mattered. He lowered his gaze, jaw tight. So this is about revenge then? You're just going to abandon your brother? I offered a smile devoid of warmth. You're not my brother. I made that abundantly clear. Ryan took a step closer. Okay, look, I messed up. I know that, but you have money now. You can help. I'm not asking for charity, just a place to stay, just until I get back on my feet. That's when the realization dawned on me. He didn't know. Not truly. He didn't grasp the complete situation. I wasn't sure if he thought I'd won the lottery or sold a successful startup, but he had no clue about the origin of the money or its significance. So, I inquired, do you know who resided here before me? He shook his head. My biological parents, I stated deliberately. This was their home. They died in a crash a few weeks after Mom and Dad passed away. Turns out, they had been observing me from a distance my entire life, and they left everything to me. Millions, properties, stocks, a foundation. Needed what else they left? Letters. Dozens of them. They wrote to me every single year. They loved me from afar, even if they never had the opportunity to express it in person. Ryan stared at me as if attempting to calculate something. I was trying to process my words. You're saying they were wealthy? I'm saying, I responded, that. I finally discovered what it feels like to be wanted, to be chosen. Not out of convenience, not out of obligation, but out of love. He remained silent, standing there with his mouth slightly agape, as if his internal power source had suddenly been disconnected. Then, with the desperation of someone flailing, he tried again. I'm sorry, Cole, truly. I was a jerk growing up. I was envious. I guess you always seemed so self-sufficient. You didn't seem to need anyone, and I don't know. I suppose I thought if I pushed you away, I'd feel more like the favored one. You were the favored one, I stated simply. But I don't think it brought you happiness, did it? He averted his gaze. I could have ended the conversation right then, closed the gate, turned around, and re-entered the comfort of the life I was finally constructing for myself. But something within me hesitated, not out of compassion, not even pity, but for the sake of closure. Wait here, I instructed. I re-entered the house. Walking down the hallway adorned with framed sketches my birth mother had created, landscapes, wildflowers, and imagined silhouettes of me as a toddler. I opened a study drawer and retrieved a single envelope. Inside was a photocopy of the original Lennox will and a letter from their attorney confirming the asset transfer. I returned and passed it through the gate. Ryan opened it with trembling fingers, his eyes scanning the document. When he reached the bottom, his face turned ashen. This isn't real, he whispered. It's very real, I confirmed. He clutched the paper, then looked up at me, suddenly enraged. So what? You're just going to stand there on your high horse and watch me fail? I didn't react. I watched you thrive while I struggled for most of my life. I believe you'll manage. His lips twisted, but he said nothing further. He just stood there for a long moment, then slowly turned and walked away, the papers fluttering gently in the wind. I watched until he reached the sidewalk, until the city streets absorbed him. Just as I turned to go back inside, my phone vibrated. With an unknown number, recognizing the unfamiliar New Mexico area code, I answered. The voice on the other end was calm, cautious, and what she said next altered everything. It was a woman's voice, soft-spoken yet firm. Is this Cole Lennox? My throat constricted. Yes. Who is this? A pause. My name is Elena. I was your biological mother, Ava Lennox's attorney. I'm contacting you because something has come to light. Something not included in the initial estate documents. I slowly closed the door behind me, its thud echoing through the entry hall like a gavel strike. I believed I had already received everything, the properties, the accounts, the letters. Yes, those were all part of the formal estate, Elena confirmed, but there were additional provisions. Ava and George were meticulous about their privacy and legacy. There were certain matters they didn't even wish to disclose in their wills. However, per Ava's instructions, I was to contact you only if your adoptive family approached you after the inheritance was transferred. I blinked, bewildered. You mean they anticipated this would happen? I wouldn't say they knew, but they certainly expected it, she replied. Ava had a keen intuition about people. She figured that once things settled down and certain individuals realized you were no longer, as she put it, the wallet with a pulse, they would come crawling. I almost chuckled, but the sound caught in my throat. So what exactly am I being contacted for? She left you something else, Alina explained. Something private, not to be handled by the estate firm. She didn't want it in legal records or on any official paper trail. I have it in a locked box, in my personal office in Santa Fe. What is it? I think you should come see for yourself, she suggested. I can have it ready by tomorrow. There's also someone you need to meet. Ava's wishes were very specific about that, too. I slowly sank onto the leather couch, my heart beating in unusual rhythm. Who am I meeting? Another, longer pause. Alina, I prompted. She sighed. Her name is Maria, and she's your sister. I froze. The room fell silent. No, I stated. No, that's impossible. I was told I was their only child. That's what the will indicated. She responded gently, because legally you were. Maria's situation was complex. Ava gave birth to her at just 19, before she ever met George. It was a closed adoption. She spent years attempting to locate her and didn't succeed until shortly before your 25th birthday. By then, Maria was married with her own children and didn't wish for her life to be disturbed. And now? I asked, barely audible. Now things are different. Maria reached out just days after Ava's passing. She expressed a desire to speak. She's prepared. I stood up unconsciously, pacing before the enormous bay windows overlooking the Lenox courtyard. So what? You're telling me I have a sister I've never met, who's suddenly appearing right after I inherit millions? I understand how that might sound, Alina acknowledged. But Maria isn't interested in money. In fact, she made it very clear. She doesn't care about the inheritance. She simply wants to talk. And Ava wished for the two of you to meet. She wrote that if anything happened to her, you should receive a letter. One that clarifies everything. I allowed the silence to hang for a moment before saying, text me your address. I'll be on a flight by morning. The following day felt surreal. I had barely slept. Every word from that phone call echoing in my mind. A sister and entirely new branch of my life, hidden away like an unread chapter. I had always presumed my biological parents had no children before me, and that their choice to give me up was a singular heartbreak. But now, I faced a stranger. Truth. I wasn't as isolated as I had believed. Upon arriving at the law office in Santa Fe, a sandstone structure nestled in the city's outskirts, Alina was already in the front lobby. She appeared to be in her late 50s, with gentle eyes and a calm, insightful presence. She bypassed small talk. She's in the back, Alina stated. But before you see her, Ava requested I give you this. She presented me with a thick, time-yellowed envelope sealed with red wax. My name was inscribed in Ava's handwriting, precise even, and distinctly maternal. My fingers trembled as I broke the seal and unfurled the pages within. The letter was extensive, 7 handwritten pages. Ava recounted her life before George, Maria's birth, and how young and terrified she was when she decided to give her up. She detailed the pain, the regret, and the years she spent searching. She spoke of how discovering me later in life was a miracle she never thought she deserved. She clarified why she never attempted direct contact. I didn't want to disrupt the life you were building, but we watched from a distance. Every birthday, every graduation, we were proud of you. I had to pause reading twice just to catch my breath. My eyes stung, and the subtle tremor in my hands wouldn't cease. She concluded the letter with a straightforward plea: meet your sister. Not because I asked it, but because you deserve to know you were never truly alone, and neither was she. I wiped my face, carefully refolded the letter, and nodded to Alina. I'm ready. She guided me down the corridor to a private conference room. The door slowly opened, revealing a woman perhaps 6 years my senior. Her dark hair was neatly pinned up, and her eyes, though weary, held a gentle warmth. She looked up as I entered, and we simply gazed at each other for a moment, neither of us moving.
Al?
Then she offered a melancholic smile and asked, "So, you're Cole?" I nodded. "And you're Maria?" She appeared on the verge of saying something else, but her phone buzzed. She glanced down, frowned, and flipped it face down without answering. "I apologize," she said. "It's been a strange week. I almost didn't come, but I wanted to meet you." I needed to meet you. I took a seat across from her. "Did you know about me?" "Not until about a year ago," she replied. "Ava sent a letter. She said she didn't expect anything, just that she wanted me to know she had another child. I didn't reply immediately. I wasn't prepared. Then, after the plane crash, suppose I realized that time isn't something you can purchase more of." I nodded slowly, the full weight of the situation still settling within me. "So, where does that leave us?" Maria met my gaze directly. "That's what I want to determine. But there's something else. Something you should probably be aware of before we proceed." I leaned closer, my heart beginning to quicken. She reached into her purse and retrieved a faded, aged photograph with worn edges. She slid it across the table.
Oh.
And when I saw the individual standing in the background of that photo, behind Ava, behind Maria, my stomach dropped because I recognized him. I fixated on the photograph, my heart thrumming like a battle drum in my chest. It was blurry, clearly from decades past, but the figure in the background was undeniable. Cropped near the edge, arms crossed and partially turned away, was Dennis, the man I had known as my father my entire life. It's the same Dennis who used to tuck me into bed when I was small. The same man who taught me to tie my shoelaces, who took me on bike rides, and who later signed a will leaving me nothing. Maria observed the recognition on my face before I spoke. "So," she said, her voice hushed, "you see it too?" I slowly looked up. Why was he there? Maria sighed, clasped her hands, and leaned forward. "That photo was taken in Albuquerque in 1994, roughly a year before you were adopted. Ava didn't know it was being taken. Someone else in her social circle captured it at a dinner party. When she discovered it years later, she nearly discarded it. She thought she was imagining things, but it was him, Dennis. She never understood why he was there or how he was connected to anyone in that room." I ran a hand through my hair, attempting to comprehend the implications. "Are you saying my adoptive father knew Ava?" "We don't know how well," Maria replied. "But yes, that's what Ava suspected. After she found the photo, she investigated. She learned Dennis used to work for a pharmaceutical company in New Mexico in the early 90s, the same company Ava consulted for before establishing her own firm. Their paths intersected more than once." "Wait," I interjected, sitting upright. "Are you saying the adoption wasn't accidental? That he knew who I was?" Maria paused. "That's precisely what I'm saying. Ava was convinced it wasn't a coincidence. But by the time she realized it, it was too late. You were already with Dennis and Linda. She attempted to reach out, but they severed all contact. That's why she and George relocated their operations east and withdrew from public life. She didn't want to risk disrupting your life." My pulse pounded in my ears. My entire life I had believed Dennis and Linda simply stumbled upon me, that I was placed in their care by fate or divine intervention. But this revelation changed everything. It implied Dennis had selected me, not from affection, but from a desire for control. "Why wouldn't they just tell me?" I asked, my voice slightly hoarse. "Why endure all that only to treat me like an outsider?" Maria's expression softened. Ava wondered the same thing. "But you mentioned they never truly treated you as their own." "Correct? Yes," I replied bitterly. "They reminded me of that daily." "Perhaps that's the key," she suggested. "Maybe Dennis wanted to keep you, not because he loved you, but because he intended to hurt Ava." I stared at her. "You're saying I was a pawn?" She nodded slowly. "Or leverage, or revenge." Ava never fully pieced it together, but she carried the burden of guilt for years that she lost you to them. I was speechless. It felt as though my mind was attempting to rewrite my entire life, page by page, as I sat there. Maria reached over and placed a hand on mine. "I'm not telling you this to cause pain. I just believe you deserve the truth." Ava didn't want to leave this world with secrets. I think she hoped we would find each other, even if it was late. I gently squeezed her hand, and for the first time in a long while, something within me settled, a missing piece clicking into place. "Thank you for telling me," I said softly. "I needed to hear it, even if it hurts." We conversed for hours afterward. She showed me more letters Ava had sent her, shared photographs, and spoke about her children, her life, and her regrets. I, in turn, shared mine, the fractured holidays, the forced smiles, the profound loneliness. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to justify myself to someone. She simply understood. Eventually, she posed the question I hadn't anticipated. "So, what are you going to do about Ryan?" I exhaled slowly. "Honestly, I'm not sure." He came crawling the moment he lost everything, and the way he looked at me as if I were merely a safety net, as if I owed him something. "You don't," she asserted. "You owe yourself. Whatever brings you peace, that's all that truly matters." A week later, I returned to New York. I had ignored Ryan's calls while away. I came back to 5 new voicemails and a text message that simply read, "Please, Cole. I'm losing everything." As I pulled into the brownstones' driveway, I saw him waiting on the front steps, a duffel bag beside him, his hoodie pulled up, looking utterly dejected. He stood when he saw me. "Cole, thank God. Man, I wasn't sure if you were even coming back." I parked, exited the car, and stood before him. "This isn't your home, Ryan." I know, he quickly replied, hands raised. "I'm not here to stay, I just thought, look, I'm sorry, okay? For everything. For what I said at the will reading. For the things I did growing up. I was a kid, man. I didn't know what I was doing. You were still saying those things 2 years ago." I countered, "I know." He looked down. I was jealous. "You had your life together. Didn't need them the way I did." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean you needed their money?" He didn't answer, just stared at the ground. "Know about Dennis," I stated. He looked up sharply. I know he knew Ava. I know I wasn't adopted by chance. He took me despite her, and he never truly loved me. Linda simply followed his lead. But you deliberately chose every single day to ensure I knew I didn't belong. His jaw tightened. I didn't know about any of that. "That's precisely the issue," I countered. "You didn't want to know. You just wanted to come out on top." Silence hung between us. Then he asked, "So what now? You're just going to shut the door on me? Let me fail." I looked at him, the man who was once my brother in name, if not in spirit hand. I made my choice. "No," I stated. "I'm going to offer you one opportunity." His eyes brightened. "I'm establishing a charitable foundation in Ava and George's names. It will support underprivileged children and young adults who, like me, were displaced. I'm hiring individuals who comprehend hardship, who know how to build something from nothing. And I'm prepared to offer you an entry-level position, starting from the ground up. You'll receive a salary, but nothing extravagant. You'll report to someone else, and if you make a mistake, you're out. No safety net, no more rescues. You take this seriously, or you leave." He blinked at me. "You're serious, completely serious." He looked away, his shoulders slumping. "What if I'm not capable of it?" "Then you figure it out," I replied. "Just like I did, just like everyone has to. Or you walk away, and I won't hear from you again." He remained silent for an extended period. Then he slowly nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." 8 months have passed since then. Ryan accepted the position. He's been quiet, somewhat reserved, but he consistently shows up. He's learning gradually, and I'm observing him not as his rescuer, not as his brother, but as someone who understands what it means to build from nothing. Maria and I speak weekly. I visited her family twice. Her children now call me Uncle Cole, and for the first time in my life, that title feels genuinely meaningful. The brownstone remains my home, but it's no longer a fortress constructed from vengeance. It's a place of remembrance, of healing, of enduring legacy. Sometimes late at night, I reread Ava's letters. There's a particular line I always return to. "You were never a mistake. You were our second chance." And perhaps now, finally, I get to be someone else's second chance. Maybe that's the true essence of family. Not defined by blood, nor by legal documents, but by choice. And this time, I am choosing peace.